And so everyone in this tent knows that manufacturers locate where they can operate, where they can get products to market quickly.
Vice President Joe Biden talking trains, trucks, and ports at the CSX intermodal terminal near North Baltimore, where the railroad transfers cargo between trains and trucks. This facility opened 2 years ago and employs nearly 300 people. It's the cornerstone of what's called the National Gateway Project, the CSX double stack route between the East Coast and the Midwest. A combination of state, federal, and private money, $850 million, paved the way for this corridor where bridges and tunnel clearances were raised to support double stack containers on trains. We are told it's improving service for customers, cutting down on highway congestion, decreasing fuel consumption, and growing the economy.
It used to take over a week for a Whirlpool dishwasher to get off the floor of a factory here and now to port. Now it takes 2 to 3 days. That means profit for Whirlpool.
In a speech, the vice president called for more investment in infrastructure improvements like the National Gateway Project in order to create jobs and strengthen the middle class.
When you create profits for companies, they hire people at middle-class wages that you can raise a family on. You can live in a decent neighborhood. You can own a home. You can send your kid to school and maybe even take care of your parents.
In North Baltimore, Christine Long, 13 ABC Action News.
Now, before the vice president came to Ohio, he made a stop at the Port of Baltimore in Maryland, and that's where we find 13 ABC Washington Bureau Chief Jacqueline Policastro to explain how that trip links up to today's events.
This is where trucks come in and out of the Port of Baltimore. We came to the port to look into the impact of the vice president's trip here. And we found out that impact literally stretches from this Baltimore to North Baltimore.
Governor, thank you very much.
Vice President Biden drew a crowd at the Port of Baltimore as he handed over a $10 million federal grant in September.
About 70% of all the commerce in the world is sitting in the hulls of ships, the tops of ships on the world's oceans. And it's something that most Americans don't think about.
But Biden's thinking about that freight. The money he announced is helping with a project to widen the shipping channel into the port and to get 4 supersized cranes working. The Port of Baltimore is already one of just 2 ports on the East Coast that can handle the largest container ships in the world, and it's #1 in the nation for moving cars. But the Port of Baltimore has a limit. It can't handle double-stack container trains in its outdated tunnel, so this is in the works.
CSX is working on a plan to create a new transfer facility that will get around that tunnel and allow the Port of Baltimore to be able to handle double-stack container trains, which in the maritime and shipping business is a huge competition, huge competitive advantage.
The port's Director of Communications, Richard Shear, tells me the CSX planned project for Baltimore, Maryland will link up directly with the North Baltimore, Ohio project.
It will give the Port of Baltimore better access to discretionary markets into the Midwest and basically expand our reach.
Shear has a message for Ohio. A VP visit means good news. What did the vice president's visit do for morale at this port?
Well, it's obviously a tremendous opportunity when the vice president visits your port. It's not an everyday thing, not an every year thing.
But what is an everyday thing? The work that's done in our nation's ports and on our railways. There's still a lot to do before the link to Ohio is complete, but workers involved tell me when it's done, it will be a game changer. Reporting at the Port of Baltimore in Maryland, Jacqueline Policastro, 13 ABC Action News.